Hello, my name's Daniel. I'm the founder of GrowthArk, and I thought I'd just give my insight on AI and how businesses have been using AI properly across their business. And it's not as sexy as the hype makes it seem, right? So everything about OpenClaw, agents, all that sort of stuff. That's a lot of hype, and I've seen a lot of businesses try to implement this successfully and just basically fail to do so. So I'm going to give my short insights on what I've seen actually work in the market or businesses and how they use AI, and what doesn't work and what usually leads to issues, failures, all that sort of stuff. All right, so let's jump right in. Now, what do I see actually not work? So this is what businesses try to do. They think that if they built an agent, right, and they got the agent to do a specific type of tasks or set of tasks over time, that process is going to be reliable and that a human can just use it and then poof, done, it works really well. Now, that does sound correct on how you can actually do those tasks, because an agent, say OpenClaw, Hermes, etc., is able to do tasks X, Y, Z, and that it will just, work well after I just give it some clarity as to like what the actual task is. But what I've seen, right, personally, is that that doesn't work most of the time. Now, it can work if you do it well, but most of the time, businesses that try to do this fail, and this is why they fail. They fail because they don't clearly understand the specific tasks that the agent needs to do, the subtasks within the task itself, and then breaking the task down to a very predictable process that is then embedded into the agent, that then the agent will activate rather than actually trying to do all of it. And what I mean by that is you can build a skill to do a specific task, right? And that skill can outline the specific tools to use to be able to do it, access the right inputs to be able to produce the right outputs, but also be able to activate a programmatic or workflow script that is able to do specific functions or actions within the task itself, or to be able to produce the ideal output. Right now, most 90+% of people that try to get agent to do tasks don't do this, and they end up with a myriad of tasks that the agent does, and it doesn't do too well, and it just ends up failing. A lot of people spend their time and money on it, and it's just a failed experiment. Now, another reason why it doesn't work too well is because sometimes when you're getting an agent or when you're trying to automate a specific task, that task is part of the overall structure of the businesses. It's part of the system, right? And if you're putting something to be part of the system, you'd want it to be repeatable, and to some degree, you'd want it scalable. Scalable in the sense that you can have multiple runs happening simultaneously or concurrently and still producing the same output. For example, if you have this dependent on an agent, the agent can be focused on performing a specific task or function, and then if they're doing it, their context might be getting bloated. There's high token usage, all that sort of stuff. There's quite a few things that can go wrong there. And there's also the security layer that you need to be considerate of, just to make sure that there's no actual leaks and stuff, right? And when you have when you need that task being done quite a bit as part of your business's system, you end up with an agent that basically doesn't do the task well, unless you add some sort of queuing system and try to figure out the right solution there. My experience is that when you try to do that, you will most likely not have the right solution for it, simply because you didn't build it off the right foundation. You don't need an agent for that sort of process. Most likely you can implement an agentic workflow or automation, right, that you can set up that will do that predictably every time. But even then, you'd want to, again, be able to look at the tasks and their subcomponents, right, the specific processes you need to go through to finish the task and have predictable, repeatable output. And you need to look at it and be like, does an LLM even need to be as part of the sub-process? And when you do that, you'll only use an LLM in the part of the process that actually makes sense to use it. So open source tools like LangGraph do this pretty well, but that's the way you need to look at it. Because again, once you build the solution, you want it repeatable and producing predictable output and being able to go through a feedback process to make sure that the output is good. Now, if you built this and then got an agent and got the agent to use this process that you've set up, then you'd have predictable output, right? Because the agent essentially is acting as a trigger to activate it and potentially providing the inputs needed to produce the outputs that you want. So that's how I see it not working. And conversely, what I see working is when basically you do the opposite. So you look at a specific task that you need done in the business or workflow. You map out currently how it works and how it works in the business, and then you come up with a solution that may or may not have agents within it or an agentic process or agentic steps as part of the sequence of steps. But you'd want to go through that process first, and then once you figure that out, you'd find the most optimal system design to be able to produce a repeatable, predictable output every single time, and what specific triggers should be activating this workflow and how agents should be interacting with it and stuff. When you do it like that, it will work very well, but it does take time to make sure that you set this up in the correct way. That's what I've seen work, right? And if you don't do it properly, it just leads to shit. It just doesn't work too well because the agents need to improvise every time they're performing a specific task or skill and stuff. And then if you have if the agent is improvising, then it's not really a repeatable, predictable system or a deterministic system because the agent needs to improvise. So when you're building these tools, your real goal is to go away from uncertainty and towards certainty, and the way you do that is through a deterministic workflow, a sequence of steps that produces the output every single time. So that's my 2 cents. Hopefully that has been valuable. If you'd like to learn more about everything AI and how you implement it in businesses and stuff, just follow this channel. If you want to be in contact with me, just you can reach me, check the description below, and you can reach me at GrowthArk.ai. You can reach me directly to my LinkedIn. You can also reach me at my Instagram. So yeah, that's about it.